Hello, everyone. If you have listened to the show before, you know that we like to talk a little MLB news before we get to the players, but this time we talked about it for a good 20 plus minutes. So if you just want to get to the Fergie Jenkins part of the episode, I have time stamped it in the description. Thank you and enjoy the show.
That's a clown question, bro.
So I'm gonna kick some dirt.
He gets on base.
Just a bit outside.
I'm not the type of player that's going to be Johnny Hustle.
If you don't want me to watch the ball, you can go get it out of the ocean.
Oh, Canada.
And welcome to the show to be named later, where we're talking baseball kind of whenever. I am your host, Chris Gianta. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, it is one of the best days of the year. Today, if you're listening to this on the day that it's being put out on July 1st, today is Bobby Bonilla Day, a national holiday throughout the baseball world. Of course, Bobby Bonilla is getting paid $1.3 million by the New York Mets today, and he's going to be doing this until 2045. The price is going to increase every single year because of inflation, and it is just a beautiful thing to celebrate. I mean, who doesn't love a good laugh at the Mets' expense?
Yeah, I mean, they've never disappointed ever since that great franchise was made in 1962 or 1961 or 1962.
It was 62.
They have just been hitting home run after home run in terms of being a meme.
Yep. And this is one that we get every year. You know, there hasn't been much to make fun of with the Mets this year other than like a couple ownership things, with Steve Cohen almost buying them, and then you got A-Rod and J-Lo trying to buy them. This is a staple. We get this every year, pandemic or not.
Yeah. I mean, and even it is funny because even the Mets, like, they're in the headlines more than your average MLB team during a pandemic anyway. So with this ownership stuff, but yeah, Bobby Bonilla Day it's a wonderful day to celebrate for sure. It is.
I mean, there's a lot of deferred contracts out there. Like Christian Yelich just got one where, he's going to be getting paid up until like almost 2050 or something like that. The difference with Bobby Bonilla is that he wasn't good. Christian Yelich, of course, is almost a two-time MVP winner. He earned his money. And Bobby Bonilla, this was just $5 million that the Mets didn't want to pay up front. So they just kicked the can down the road, essentially. And now that's turned into this giant thing because of inflation, where they now have to pay him for 35 years in a row. And this was just $5 million they could have paid up front. So,
yeah, I mean, it is hilarious. I'm going to try to look at his numbers with the Mets. I mean, he played a good 3.5 years with them. 851 OPS, 128 OPS plus.
Look at his single seasons though, like down in the early 2000s. Those are the ones.
Oh.
Yep, that's what they paid him.
579.
That's what it is.
OPS.
You want to read off those single year stats in the early 2000s for the Mets?
He only had one season. It was 1999.
But that's the one season that they didn't want to pay him an extra $5 million for.
Yeah.
And what did he do?
I mean, you'll learn something new every day, and it's the Mets,
I will say this, though. There is actually a silver lining to the whole Bobby Bonilla thing. So with the money, the $5 million that the Mets did not pay to Bobby Bonilla, they actually paid to Mike Hampton. If you don't know who Mike Hampton is, he's a pitcher in the early 2000s. He was with the Astros, the Mets, a couple other teams. He was pretty good for some time. Actually won NLCS MVP in 2000, I believe. And after the 2000 season, he did not re-sign with the Mets, and they got a compensation draft pick, and that compensation draft pick turned out to be David Wright. So there you go.
There we go. So yeah, it all worked out, and I mean, $1 million a year. What's it gonna do to you except?
It's just a meme.
It's just a meme.
Yeah, it's just a prank, bro.
But anyway, we've got some MLB news. Last episode, mid-episode, we found out that baseball was officially back. And
I don't think we went over the official rule set, though, did we?
We kind of did, but I think we could go over it again.
Why don't we? More in depth. So, of course, you got a 60-game season. Each team is going to be playing 40 games in their division and then 20 games in their other league counterparts. So, like the AL East will play the NL East. The Centrals will play the Centrals. The West will play the West. And there's going to be a universal DH finally. Chris, I don't know if we've actually had the universal DH talk on the show, like our opinions of it. But we're both AL fans, so I can assume that you're a pro DH guy just like I am. But finally, like this, it feels like a long time coming.
Yeah, the universal DH. Yeah, I think we did talk about it before, like with I think it was on radio. I think it was being discussed. It was like a little aside thing during when it was kind of dead in the off season at one point.
They do that every year, though. Every year they're like, universal DH, maybe.
Yeah, my stance is like, I get if you're a National League fan and you like, I think it is interesting to have kind of like a handicap in the middle of your lineup and having to work around that. But also, the quality of play is better with designated hitters. Pitchers are never going to be getting paid for what they do in the batter's box. It's always going to be what they do on the mound. So everything else is extra.
And one of the perfect examples of why the National League batting is bad. Chris, remember Jimmy Nelson? Remember him from the Brewers? Remember that really good 2017 that he was having up until like mid-September when he got injured in a base running incident and he's never been the same since. Yeah, that guy. Yeah, probably you probably don't want more of that.
Yeah, I mean, there are countless examples. There's Stephen Wright with the Red Sox. Wright. There's Chien-Ming Wang with the Yankees in, I think, 2008.
Yeah.
They're not trained to be on the base paths or trained to be swinging.
That's not why. Yeah, you're not coming to a ballpark to watch Chien-Ming Wang run the bases. You're coming to watch him pitch.
Yeah.
And, the National League fans will point to, like, oh, Madison Bumgarner, like, oh, my God, like, he hits 4 home runs a year. He has, like, a low 700s OPS. He's pretty good, right? Do you seriously – would you really rather have Madison Bumgarner than an actual hitter? Like, even if he's the very best example, that's still not that good. That's still a below-average hitter. That's your best-case scenario there.
Yeah, it is always interesting. And – they'll also point out, like, oh, it's more strategy. It has the bunt.
Double switch. Oh, my God. I love the double switch.
Yeah, pitchers have been getting worse at bunts, getting worse offensively in every single way. And it's just because the attention has not been there, and I feel like they've been waiting for the universal DH anyway.
And then the one last, like, counter argument is like, oh, the Bartolo Colon home run. That was cool, but let's just be honest. For the rest of time, there will never be a pitcher home run as cool as that one Bartolo home run. If he hits it again, it'll be cool, but still not as cool as the first time. Nobody else is ever going to have that same effect. You got to be in the league for, 20-plus seasons, have a couple meme-worthy at-bats because, you swing so hard and you lose your helmet and you're a big chubby guy. It's so funny. Listen, the Bartolo home run was awesome. Of course, how can I ever forget May 7th, 2016, when I was in my basement with a bunch of friends and I had to stop everything because I got that notification and I ran over to my friend's house to tell him the news. Like, yeah, of course I'm going to remember that. It was awesome. But it's never going to be that cool again no matter what.
Yeah, and the only reason pitcher home runs are cool is because
they never happen. There's like happen. 2 a month.
Yeah. Like pitchers who rake is a hashtag because they don't rake.
Because they don't rake. It's the couple times they do. It's like, look at that. They did it. For the second time, they did it for the second time this week. That's never happened before. No, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, but I mean that's kind of our take on the universal DH. We're probably a little biased, but
so we have that. There's also a runner on second base every extra inning. I never really understood. I never really liked this rule, but honestly, I really don't care. If it means we get baseball, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand personally, I don't really understand the idea of increasing action in extra innings when, you're trying to get your audience to watch 9 innings. So, I mean, if they don't want to watch the 13th inning, I feel like that's like a lot of people.
I remember in 2018, I went to a minor league game when they actually had that rule in place, and the game happened to go into extras, and I remember just seeing the runner go out to second. I was like, "What are we doing here? Like this does not feel right."
Yeah, yeah. I was working at a minor league stadium in 2018, and yeah, that happened, and yeah, it was super weird. You know, I don't understand the rush. I mean, like, and one thing I will never be behind is a baseball tie.
Okay, no, you can't do that. No.
Yeah, I, c- I
There's
think that
always
was
those people where it's
just
like after the 20th inning do a home run derby, which it sounds cool like on paper, but like that's not gonna happen.
yeah. I guess I'm kind of a purist when it comes to extra innings. Just like keep the game, just keep the game going. How it
Keep
is.
the game
I don't
going.
think.
And not only that, but like I live like the diehard baseball fans live for those like marathon like 18 inning games, like where it's like, all right, well, you know what? It's past the 14th. Let's get weird. Let's see how far this goes.
Oh yeah, I mean the game three of the 2018 World
Well,
Series
that
was
game sucked because I had an ACT the next day.
well, yeah, yeah, for you definitely. But it's just like it was kind of cool, and like
Mhm.
the fact it made Eovaldi's performance, even though he
Yeah.
lost, it made his performance like kind of a legendary thing. Um, and like being on social media during an extra innings game is
Yeah.
very fun.
When it's like 2:30 in the morning, like you know, only the diehards are up.
Yeah,
Like no, like what casual baseball fan that's not a Red Sox or Dodgers fan is staying up to watch the World Series at 3 in the morning? No one.
no,
Like that's when the real ones are out. Like no one's just like, I might as well just watch this thing out. Like you got to be a diehard for that. The one that I remember and can give a more balanced opinion on was Game 2 of the 2014 NLDS between the Giants and the Nationals when Yusmeiro Petit had that legendary performance. You know, I watched that whole game and I remember being kind of upset when Brandon Belt hit that home run because I was like, damn, I wanted to go to the 20th. And we did a whole show on that team alone. So go check out that episode. I believe that was what episode 36.
correct.
Nice, I got it.
Yeah, yeah, the extra innings things. It's like it's very every time that argument is brought up, it's because like maybe 2 18 inning games happened that week, and it's like, do we need to fix extra innings to quicken the game? It's like no one who's not watching baseball is like, I love the first 9 innings, and then it gets into the 15th, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't stand this.
That's the thing. It's like when Manfred's talking about all this pace of play stuff, and you see like the numbers. It's like in 2015 it was 3 hours a game, and in 2016 we got it down to 2 hours and 55 minutes. It's like, all right, great. You shaved 5 minutes. Here comes all the new fans, right? Like, no, that's not what's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's all in marketing. It's
It's
not
all
in.
yeah. Like when all when you see all the complaints about like the baseball is boring, the baseball is dull, blah blah blah. You never hear the argument that it's too long. You never hear that. You hear the season's too long, but you never hear the game's too long. NFL football games last just as long and no one cares, which it probably helps that there's 16 instead of 162. But still, that's not the point.
Yeah, that's always a point that I've had is if there was if there were 16 baseball games a year, I mean that would be like primetime television every time. But
Mhm.
it's a 162 game season, so obviously they're not going to these games aren't going to carry as much weight.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is like, and so to get a fan base, you have to really market the players very well
And
so that they
that's
know who
MLB's
to
biggest
watch.
complaint is that they don't do that. Obviously Mike Trout is the main like we don't market this guy enough type of guy. Of course, he's the undisputed best player in the league. No one really knows much about him other than just the fact that he's a baseball player. And a lot of people see that as like the number one example of not marketing players. But I can tell you right now, there are so many more examples. Like the only baseball players I'd say that are marketed well are like Bryce Harper and Aaron Judge. That's probably it, right?
There's some newer guys like Ronald Acuna Jr. is
Those are
very
those ones are good too, but those are like the primary. Like if like and Bryce Harper did that for himself because like he was on the SI cover at age 16, and Aaron Judge is like 6'12" playing in New York, hitting 50 home runs, so he doesn't really have much to do uh, with his own personality. It's sort of just he's a giant man who hits bombs, and that's what people
By the
love.
way, for the audience, just try to get through a Sunday night baseball Yankees game without just cringing over the love fest that they have for Aaron Judge.
Yeah,
I
it's
have no
like he
problem
is
with Aaron Judge.
6'7". Whoa.
And that they put a picture of him and a picture of Rob Gronkowski. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh my god, please. It's like
Yeah, I mean, it's very easy to market a guy like that, but they can do that for other people.
yeah. I mean, I'm trying to like Christian Yelich. It has a great he's got a great personality. He's a very cool guy. He
He's
does
in a
charity
small
work.
market, and he's just, he put up the first 1100 OPS season last year that anyone's seen since I think 2015 Harper.
Yeah.
Yeah. And granted, he missed a month, but still, like that's so hard to do, and he's out here doing it, and he didn't even win the MVP.
Yeah, he didn't even win the MVP. Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of guys.
I mean, like I'll think of a guy like Tim Anderson. Like I know that Tim Anderson on paper caters more to the old age of baseball, where it's like he won the batting title and he gets hits and he gets on base and this basic stuff. Like I know that Tim Anderson doesn't translate as well to the new age analytics, but he's a perfect south side of Chicago. Like he throws his bat after home runs. He plays with all that passion. Like he's another guy that really doesn't get that much attention.
Yeah, I mean, a lot. I think the MLB is doing slightly better marketing their young talent. I mean, they're making somewhat of an effort. They had like the let's let the kids play stuff or whatever.
Yeah,
And
but
then
until they want to get paid, then we don't let them play.
yeah, so like they've done well with like Baez and Acuna.
Mm-hmm.
Anderson will, if he has another good year, I could see a better marketing campaign for him.
I hope so. And also like the blackouts too.
Oh yeah, I mean that's
Like
just
if you want to buy MLB TV and watch every single game, you can't watch the one in your area. Sorry.
yeah, it's just it's horrific. It's just yeah.
And even like look at LA. Like Dodgers fans literally can't watch the Dodgers in LA because of the blackout.
Uh-huh.
Like, that's a real thing that exists. In 2020, that still exists.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, and it's a complete lack of regard for the future of the sport when you have those strict TV deals.
Yeah.
So yeah, any other rule stuff that we are missing out on?
That's about it. I'm happy we're getting baseball, and I think this will be good. Dodgers and Astros are going to play each other this year. Yay. Did you see that thing that the A's are doing?
Oh, no.
So the A's are doing this thing where if you send in like a picture of yourself, they will make a cardboard cutout of it and put it in the seats in the Coliseum. And then if a foul ball hits you, you get to keep the ball.
I did see that.
Every team should do that.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, I think that's better than anything Korea's.
Yeah, like if you can't have fans, might as well make it fun. And like, if you're gonna lose out on money, you could be like, if you're like, I don't know, if you're the Red Sox, you could be like, hey, if you want your cutout on the Green Monster, that's gonna be, I don't know, $100, which it might seem like a lot, but there's enough Red Sox fans that will pay that much money to have a cardboard cutout of themselves on the Green Monster. You know it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that would be a great way to get back a little bit of money that you're losing without, having all the fans in there.
Yeah, I mean that would be very good. That's good marketing. That's good marketing.
It is. It'd be fun.
And last thing we'll talk about MLB news wise, and then we'll get into Fergie Jenkins.
Yes.
So it was Mike Leake, then Ryan Zimmerman and Joe Ross, then Ian Desmond, and has anyone else opted out?
I think that's it so far.
Yeah, so those four guys have opted out of playing in 2020 for various reasons. A lot of it safety, a lot of it just like personal stuff. Like, hey, I'm fine with taking this year off. It's fine.
I mean, I think the most understandable out of that group is Ryan Zimmerman. Like, he has absolutely nothing left to prove. in this game. Like, he was the first Nationals draft pick ever. He's stuck with them through the tough years. He just won a World Series with them. He's Mr. National. Like, he's got all his money. Like, Ryan Zimmerman has nothing left to prove in baseball. If he retires right now, no one's gonna look back and be like, man, he missed a couple of years of his career. Maybe like he's done it all.
Yeah, and he'll forever be a legend in Washington, no doubt about that. Yeah, so those four so far.
Yeah, and like Mike Leake, I can understand if you're playing in Arizona, like that's probably not ideal. And he's another guy who's not that he hasn't won a World Series or done anything particularly personal, but he's a solid pitcher, and that's honestly going to be quite a loss for the D-backs. I know that they do have rotation depth, but realistically, that's a guy that was going to give you innings, whether they were good or bad. So that's something you're going to need to replace. Joe Ross is the youngest of this group, and he is 27 years old, but he does have a pretty good history with injuries and health problems. So I can understand not wanting to play and of course, like, obviously with COVID, but there's been a lot of spikes in a lot of states. And like it's Fauci suggested today that like they're going to keep coming.
Yeah. I mean, it's I guess it's kind of predictable that stuff happens, but I mean, I think where we're going is like there's a lot of places that are just trying to plow right through this thing.
Yeah. And the last one was Ian Desmond, who is now playing for the Rockies, and he put out a very lengthy statement about why he was not playing. And, I think it was really powerful and interesting to dive into about some of the racial inequalities that still exist in baseball that not a lot of people really know about. I mean, he mentioned, there's only one black GM, there's only 2 black managers in the game, and only 8% of the league, I believe, is black, which is, it certainly isn't ideal, especially in this age of racial inequalities being put into attention a lot more than they have in the past. And also you have COVID, of course, but obviously, like, you got to stand with Ian Desmond with what he says here. He and one thing that he got into, which I thought was interesting, was that whole like he plays the game the right way stigma was, interestingly enough, more of a white person thing than it was a black. Did you hear that, Chris?
I don't think I read the full essay. I think I read.
That was probably the most like attention grabbing thing that he said.
Yeah, I mean,
which if you really think about it, like it does kind of apply. Like I know that, I think the one person that has ever applied to more than anyone else is Derek Jeter, who is half black. But still, like most of the times you think about that, like if you think of the playing the game the right way thing, you don't think of Tim Anderson.
Yeah, you don't think of, when you think of like, oh, he's a grinder, he's a hustler.
Mm-hmm.
You're thinking of, the more like, I think people note the more white players there.
Yes, I mean, obviously I support Ian Desmond for what he said here, and I think it was really powerful, and he's gotten a lot of support from his peers in the major leagues. So it was definitely really powerful and courageous of him to put something of that magnitude out there, which is cool to see. So that is just about going to wrap it up for our news, and we have Fergie Jenkins and the 08 Phillies on today's show.
Yeah, we got Fergie Jenkins. Probably, I would say he's the forgotten pitcher of like the age of where starting pitchers became dominant. I mean, there are countless Hall of Fame pitchers from this era. You got Tom Seaver, Steve Carlton,
Nolan
Don
Ryan,
Sutton, Bob Gibson, Nolan Ryan, Gaylord Perry,
Juan Marichal.
Juan Marichal, several guys during this boom. I could probably think of of a few more, but Fergie Jenkins kind of gets forgotten here, probably because didn't pitch in the postseason, and he wasn't particularly spectacular at any one component of pitching. He was just kind of very good at everything. So Fergie Jenkins, he grew up in Chatham, Ontario, Canada, one of the one of the first baseball stars of Canada.
Canada,
Maybe
eh?
you could. Oh yeah, you could argue he's the first star of Canada. Yeah, baseball. You think you got your hockey, and that's pretty much it. You got your curling. But Fergie Jenkins, he chose to play baseball. Yeah, that's what he did. So yeah, his mother was a great bowler, and his father actually played semi-pro baseball on an all-black team in Canada. Fergie Jenkins would play first base and outfield for a quote-unquote bantam baseball team. Um, Bantam baseball, I still haven't found a clear definition for what that was, but it must have been really booming in the 50s in Canada. But that leads into what Fergie Jenkins was doing in high school. In high school, Fergie Jenkins competed in track, hockey, and basketball.
Of course, he played hockey. That's a staple.
Yeah, if you're an athlete, I think that's a semester credit in Canada. I think
Yeah, it's a graduation requirement.
yeah, I think you have to play hockey for a semester if you want to graduate high school in Canada. And I guess there wasn't a baseball team, a high school baseball team for him in Canada, so he competed in track, hockey, and basketball. He and his friends, however, growing up, they would throw rocks at an ice chute when the rubber flap opened. So, like, I'm not really aware of how that works, but it was some target practice with some projectiles, and that came more into play with Fergie Jenkins when boxcars passed on the local railway. Fergie Jenkins and his friends would try to throw rocks between the boxcars or into open boxcars, practicing their control and command with these rocks. And while he wasn't a pitching regular with these bantam baseball teams, he would volunteer to pitch when options were limited for his bantam baseball teams. Also, he was encouraged to keep working on pitching by a former Cubs minor leaguer and then Philadelphia Phillies scout, Gene Zayadura. This guy, Gene Zayadura, he saw Fergie Jenkins for what he was. He thought he was a hard thrower and a guy who could control the baseball. He recognized this in Jenkins, and eventually Zayadura signed Fergie Jenkins to the Phillies right after Fergie Jenkins graduated high school in 1962.
So now he is in the minor leagues, and in 1962, he has an 0.97 ERA, not a bad start, with a 9.6 Ks per nine through 65 innings pitched in Class D Miami. He then gets called up to AAA Buffalo and got humbled a bit, allowed 8 earned runs through 13 innings pitched there. And that was about it for his 62 season. So then in 63, he has a 3.41 ERA and an 8.7 Ks per nine through 140 innings pitched in Class A Miami, but then he allows 7 earned runs through 10 innings pitched in AAA Arkansas. So then in 1964, he has a 3.11 ERA with once again 9.6 Ks per nine through 139 innings, arguably his most impressive season yet, given the workload in AA Chattanooga. And then he has a 3.16 ERA through 57 innings pitched in AAA Arkansas. So this is the year that he was finally able to do it on both levels. And then in 65, he has a 2.95 ERA with 8.3 strikeouts per nine and 122 innings pitched in AAA Arkansas. And he gets called up to the Phillies. So he makes his MLB debut on September 10th, 1965, and he actually relieves for Hall of Famer Jim Bunning. And he pitched the 8th inning through the 12th inning, and in his final inning, he pitched 4.1 innings pitched, scoreless, with 2 base runners allowed, earning the first win of his career. So, I mean, 1 start, 1 win. Not a bad way to begin your major league career. And he pitched 2.1 innings for the Phillies in 1966 the next year. And then on April 21st, 1966, he gets traded for John Herstein and Okay, hold on. John Herstein and okay, we're gonna have to cut this part out. Sorry. Aldolfo, is that how to pronounce that?
He gets traded with
Oh, with
Herrnstein and Adolfo Phillips for Bob Buell
Bob Bull and Larry Jackson. Okay. So then on April 21st, 1966, he gets traded with John Herrnstein and Adolfo Phillips for Bob Bull and Larry Jackson to the Cubs. And so now with the Cubs in 1966, he has a 4.09 ERA as a reliever, and he actually made his first career start on August 25th. And in his starts, he had a 2.13 ERA, which is pretty impressive through 9 starts, and pitched 8+ innings in 6 of those 9 starts, and finished 5th in Ks per 9 with a 7.3.
So that leads into his 1967 season, where the ball really gets rolling for Fergie Jenkins. Fergie Jenkins, he's now comfortable as a starter. He's actually better as a starter, and now he has a fulfilled role on the Chicago Cubs here in 19.
That, by the way, is like something you don't see anymore. Like a guy who is a reliever becoming a starter and then suddenly being a lot better. Like normally it's the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think, maybe Brandon Woodruff would go in that category, but
I guess,
was
but
he a reliever in 2018?
he was mostly a starter.
He was mostly a starter? Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I was thinking of someone else.
Let me look that up.
But in Fergie Jenkins' 1967, he put himself among the best pitchers in baseball. He finished 3rd in the National League in innings pitched with 289 1/3 innings.
Woodruff actually was a reliever for most of 2018, but he was a starter in 17, so he went starter, reliever, back to starter.
That's interesting. That's
Yeah.
interesting. But also, Fergie Jenkins, he had a 2.80 ERA in 1967, and he finished 5th in on-base percentage against with a 275 on-base percentage against. In 1967, he finished 8th in pitcher B WAR and 7th in pitcher F WAR. He led the league in complete games with 20, and he finished 2nd in strikeouts with 236. Also, Fergie Jenkins' 1967. It is the only National League season ever by someone in their age 24 season or younger with 280+ innings pitched, 7+ strikeouts per 9, and a 275 on-base percentage against or less. And that resulted in Fergie Jenkins finishing 2nd in the Cy Young vote in his first full year as a starter. Then in 1968, little side note, I mean, that's, if you're unaware, that's the year of the pitcher. That's when things got, it was already pitcher friendly. Things got absolutely crazy in 1968.
Just go ahead and Google Bob Gibson's 1968.
Yeah, Bob Gibson.
Particularly the World Series.
Yeah, Bob Gibson had a 1.12 ERA that year. So Fergie Jenkins, he had a 2.63 ERA that year. And you're thinking 2.63 ERA. I mean, normally that's going to rank probably top 5, among qualifying pitchers. His 2.63 ERA that year ranked 14th in the National League. And he also had a 2.46 FIP. And you're thinking 2.46 FIP. I mean, that's got to be like top 3 in a normal year.
That doesn't happen.
Yeah, 2.46 FIP rarely happens in today's game. But Fergie Jenkins' 2.46 FIP ranked 13th in the National League in 1968. So I guess the game kind of got ahead of him. And Fergie finished 2nd in innings pitched that year with 308. He finished 5th in strikeout to walk ratio with 4.0, 4th in strikeouts per 9 with 7.6, 2nd in strikeouts with 260, and 3rd in complete games, having 20 complete games for the 2nd straight year. And in 1968, he finished 4th in baseball reference WAR and 2nd in F WAR. So despite not being in the top 10 in ERA or FIP, him being a workhorse was able to get him in the top 5 for both B WAR and F WAR, which is understandable. He was a workhorse. Also, for Fergie Jenkins in 1968, he finished 6th in overall baseball reference WAR, both position players and pitchers, and he finished 18th in the MVP voting in 1968.
So we go from 68 to 69, and in 1969, he was 5th in innings pitched with 311. He had a 3.21 ERA, finished 6th in FIP with a 2.64, 7th in Ks per 9 with a 7.9, also 3rd in walks per 9 with only 2.1. And he had 23 complete games. 23, which is only 4th in the league. And he was also 2nd in shutouts with 7. He led the league in strikeouts with 273, and he also had a K to walk ratio of 3.8, and he finished 6th in B WAR, 2nd in F WAR. So now we turn the decade over to 1970, and in 1970 he finished his 2nd innings pitched with 313, had a 3.39 ERA, was 3rd in FIP with a 2.78, still a really good difference between his ERA and FIP that year. And also 4th in Ks per 9 with 7.9, 6th in ERA plus with a 1.32, and 2nd in strikeouts with 2.74. He led the league in walks per 9 with 1.7, K to walk ratio with 4.6, OBP against with a 2.64, and also complete games with 24. Finished 3rd in B WAR, 2nd in F WAR, and finished 3rd in the Cy Young vote, 21st in the MVP.
So Fergie Jenkins, from 1967 and 1970, he's not the best pitcher in the league, but you could say it's about to change in 1971. He was unbelievable, on both sides of the ball. I'll tell you, Fergie Jenkins, I think today would be opposed to the DH rule, and we respectfully disagree, but he has a good counter argument with his 1971. So we'll start off with the pitching stuff for Fergie Jenkins in 1971. He finished 9th in the league in ERA with a 2.77 ERA. He finished 3rd in ERA plus with 1.41. I guess Wrigley Field had a bad park factor for pitchers that year, so he benefited from the ERA plus, finishing 3rd in the league there. And he finished 3rd in fielding independent pitching with a 2.38, 4th in strikeouts per 9 with 7.3, and 2nd in strikeouts with 263. He led the league in innings pitched with 325, wins with 24, walks per 9 with just 1.0 walks per 9.
Ridiculous.
Strikeout to walk ratio with 7.1, and complete games with 30. 30 complete games from Fergie Jenkins in 1971. He was 2nd in the league in B WAR because Tom Seaver had a spectacular year himself, had an ERA under 1 or under 2, and Fergie Jenkins actually led the league in F WAR, getting more love from Fangraphs there. But that wasn't the only thing that made Fergie Jenkins spectacular in 1971. But with the bat, Fergie Jenkins hit 243 with a 761 OPS and 6 home runs and 7 doubles in 132 plate appearances. As a pitcher, I mean, he was unbelievable. For a pitcher, he was above average for an average hitter. Your regular position player, and he led the league in batter war among pitchers. So he produced the best season. He produced the best season as a hitter, as a pitcher, I guess you could say. And his 1971 as a hitter alone is unbelievable. His 1971 is tied for the 12th best batter B WAR by a pitcher in a single season in the live ball era, and tied for the 7th best batter F WAR by a pitcher in a single season in the live ball era. And that resulted in Fergie Jenkins leading the league in overall WAR. No position player or pitcher had a better overall WAR than he did in 1971. And his 1971 season is the only season in the live ball era with 30-plus complete games and less than 40 walks.
That's insane. Less than 40 walks.
Less than 40 walks, 30-plus complete games. I mean, he almost had as many complete games as he did walks.
That's ridiculous.
A crazy year. It is the only season in the World Series era, back to 1903, with 275 plus innings pitched and a strikeout to walk ratio of 6.5 or better. And I mean, Fergie Jenkins had 325 innings pitched and a 7.1 strikeout to walk ratio. So he had some leeway with those filters. And Fergie Jenkins' 1971 is the only season in the World Series era with 260 plus strikeouts and a walk rate of 3% or less. This resulted him in winning his first Cy Young Award and finishing 7th in the MVP vote.
You know, that's a season. I mean, like the run prevention, but also the walk prevention is probably the most fascinating thing through that entire season. I mean, that's, you know, an MVP year that we really don't see. Like even the best, you know, especially today, you know, even the best guys are going to walk like 2 or 3 guys a game as a given, no matter who they are.
Yeah, yeah. You know,
I mean, like the fact that he's able to just pound the zone the way he did, but still, you know, prevent runs the way he did is really impressive and not really something that's seen today.
yeah. I mean, you even like I'm trying to think. I'm wondering what like Corey Kluber's
Yeah,
walks per nine were in like 2018.
that's
don't
like
think
probably the best modern day example.
Yeah, I don't think he got below. I don't think he got to 1.0. It was less than 2, but it wasn't quite that much from Corey Kluber.
And not only that, but like less, and you also have to consider he pitched 325 innings. Like that is so much more opportunity to increase your walk count.
And yeah, you're getting tired at the end of those games, you know, more than a Corey Kluber type.
Mm-hmm.
So you're probably a little shaky later on, and you're still able to be just unbelievable with your control.
Yeah. So now we move on to 1972, where he is second in innings pitched with 289 in the third innings, 7th in K to walk ratio with 3, 5th in strikeouts with 184, 2nd in complete games with 23, and he had a 3.20 ERA and 3.28 FIP. He finished 5th in BWAR, 3rd in the Cy Young vote, and 28th in the most valuable player vote. So now in 1973, he is 5th in innings pitched once again in the top 5 with innings pitched, 271, 7th in strikeouts with 170, had a 3.89 ERA, a 3.67 FIP, and after the Cubs finished season 8 and 31, several Cubs, including 3 of the top 6 players in BWAR, were traded, and Jenkins went to the Texas Rangers for Vic Harris and Bill Madlock.
So now Fergie Jenkins is in Texas. You know, he had a kind of a down year for him, had a 3.89 ERA, 3.67 FIP. And now his career is kind of rejuvenated. He's in a new spot, kind of a newer age ball club.
Facing another league.
You know, and a new new league, new fan base, because the Rangers had only been in Texas for about 5 years.
And also, this is the second year that the DH is a thing.
Yeah, second year that the DH is a thing. So Jenkins might be a little upset he can't hit, but it didn't show with his performance in 1974. In 1974, this one is almost up there with 1971. He was second in innings pitched with a career high 328 in the third innings, but that ranked second in the league. He ranked 6th in ERA with a 2.82 ERA, 2nd in FIP with 2.76, 3rd in strikeouts 225, 3rd in strikeouts per 9 with 6.2, and 2nd in shutouts with 6. And where Fergie Jenkins led the league, he led the league in wins with a career high of 25, walks per 9 with 1.2, strikeout to walk ratio with 5.0, and complete games with 29. As I say, almost right on that 1971 level. He finished 4th in the league in Baseball Reference WAR and 2nd in the league in Fangraphs WAR. And that resulted him in finishing 2nd in the Cy Young vote and 5th in the MVP vote as a pitcher in 1974. Also, Fergie Jenkins Fergie Jenkins' 1974 is the only season in the live ball era with 300 plus innings, 225 plus strikeouts, 50 walks or less, and 300 hits allowed or less. Also, his 1971 and 74 seasons are the only seasons in the live ball era with 300 plus innings, 225 plus strikeouts, and 50 walks or less. So you take away the hit filter there. His 1971 and 74 seasons are the only seasons in the live ball era. It's only Fergie Jenkins there. Also, he's the only pitcher to have multiple seasons with 300 plus innings pitched, 225 plus strikeouts, and 50 walks or less since 1885. No one since 1885 has had multiple of such seasons, 300 plus innings, 225 plus strikeouts, 50 walks or less. And that capped off an amazing 8-year stretch for Fergie Jenkins, kind of an under-the-radar guy, but still just dominating, grinding, throwing strikes. His average season from 1967 to 74 consisted of 39 starts, 304 innings pitched, 22 complete games, 4 shutouts, a 3.07 ERA, a 2.87 FIP, 236 strikeouts, 60 walks, 7 strikeouts per 9, 1.8 walks per 9, a 3.9 strikeout to walk ratio, 6.6 B-WAR, and 6.9 F-WAR. Also from 1967 to 74, he was tied for third in shutouts among all pitchers in Major League Baseball, tied for third in shutouts, second in complete games, second in innings pitched, and third in Baseball Reference WAR. Mm-hmm. And where he led in from 1967 to 1974, he led in wins, strikeouts, strikeout to walk ratio, and Fangraphs WAR. So according to Fangraphs WAR, he was the best pitcher from 1967 to 74. And then in 1975, unfortunately for Fergie Jenkins, kind of takes a step down, has a 3.93 ERA and a 3.93 FIP in 270 innings pitched. Fergie Jenkins still grinding 270 innings pitched. That ranked 10th in the league. And after the season, maybe a silver lining in 1975. After this 1975 season, he was traded to the defending American League champion, Boston Red Sox, for Steve Barr, Juan Beniquez, and Craig Scott. So you're thinking, if you're Fergie Jenkins, maybe I can get maybe I can get a taste of the playoffs with the defending American League champions.
Maybe. But however, in 1976, the Red Sox unfortunately did not make the playoffs for Jenkins. But Jenkins did have an impressive season himself, a 3.27 ERA, a 3.21 FIP in 209 innings pitched. He finished 10th in the league in strikeouts with 142, 6th in Ks per 9 with 6.1, and 4th in complete games with 22. And in 1977, they didn't make it either, but they were close. The team actually finished 2.5 games out of first place in the AL East. So Jenkins was not able to make it to the playoffs with the Red Sox in his first 2 seasons, but he did have a 3.68 ERA that season with a 4.23 FIP in 193 innings pitched. And after the season, he was actually traded back to the Rangers for John Poloni.
So Fergie Jenkins, he's back with Texas, and he has a little bit of a resurgence with the Rangers, at least for one season. In 1978, he had a 3.04 ERA, which ranked 10th in the league, and a 2.95 FIP, which ranked 4th in the league. He was 6th in strikeouts with 157, 6th in strikeouts per 9 with 5.7, and 7th in complete games with 16. Also, he led the league in walks per 9, very regular thing for Fergie Jenkins. Led the league in walks per 9 with 1.5, and also led the league in strikeout to walk ratio with 3.8. And he finished 8th in the league in Baseball Reference WAR and 4th in F4. Also, it is the only season in the live ball era by someone in their age 34 season or older. It's the only season in the live ball era by someone in their age 34 season or older with 15 plus complete games, 150 plus strikeouts, and 50 walks or less. Only season since 1920 that someone
Pretty
has done
good.
that.
So now we move on to 1979. Kind of an uneventful year for him. Fifth in innings pitched because, of course, why wouldn't he be? 259. Fourth in strikeouts with 164. Fourth in Ks per nine with 5.7, and had a 4.07 ERA with a 4.45 FIP.
So then in 1980, he runs into a bit of trouble with his, general public image, and that's because on August 25th, he was arrested for possession of $500 worth of marijuana and cocaine. And, Jenkins was he said he was humiliated by this. He claimed innocence. I'm not sure what was happening there. And he didn't really have a history of drugs in his past. So it was kind of a surprise to everybody, especially the nation of Canada. They kind of, the image of their hero was kind of altered after this. The case for this arrest was dismissed, but, however, he was permanently suspended from baseball by Commissioner Bowie Kuhn.
He was the original Henry Mejia.
Yeah, he was the original Henry Mejia, and just like Henry Mejia, that suspension would be overturned. With Jenkins, the suspension was overturned within about 2 weeks by an arbitrator, but Jenkins did not go scot-free. He was fined $10,000 by the commissioner, so definitely just kind of an embarrassing thing for Fergie Jenkins. But his season wasn't terrible. He had a 3.77 ERA and a 3.74 FIP in 198.0 innings pitched. His 5.9 strikeouts per nine ranked 6th, and his 2.5 strikeout to walk ratio also ranked 6th.
So now in 1981, he has a 4.50 ERA in 16 starts with 106 innings pitched. And the big thing about 81 was after the season, he was granted free agency, and he decided to come home to the north side of Chicago and pitch again for the Cubs. And in 1982, on what would have been my negative 18th birthday on May 25th, he became the 5th member of the 3,000 strikeout club.
Takes his time. Here's the pitch. He got it, Gary Templeton! The 3,000th strikeout of his career. Gary Templeton goes down swinging. And Ferguson Jenkins being congratulated, throws the baseball into the dugout. All of his teammates coming out to shake his hand. The photographers are out there. A historic moment for Chicago Cubs baseball. A standing ovation. It all started 17 years ago when he struck out Dick Groat in 1965. Listen to the crowd.
He's the visitor, but a lot of them came to see it.
So that he immortalized himself in the 3,000 strikeout club. Of course, he became the 5th person to do it. And that season, he had a 3.15 ERA with a 3.63 FIP in 217 and a third innings pitched.
Yep, and that's his 1982, and in 1983, had a 4.30 ERA and a 4.02 FIP in 167 and a third innings. But in spring training of 1984, he ended up being released by the Cubs. I believe he was 41 at the time, so not a big deal there. But Jenkins did face some hardship post-career. I mean, his mother already had died young, during his career. His mother went into blindness, and she died young. But that wasn't the only hardship that Fergie Jenkins had to face. A lot of it was post-career. Fergie Jenkins' second wife died in an automobile accident in 1991. And he found someone else. He found a fiance, but in December of 1992, his new fiance actually killed herself and Fergie Jenkins' 3-year-old daughter by piping carbon monoxide into the car. So it was a murder-suicide that his fiance committed on herself and Fergie Jenkins' daughter. And he was married to he found a third wife. He was married to her for 24 years, a happy marriage, but she died in 2018. So he's experienced the death of a lot of people close to him.
He's a strong guy for going through with all that.
Yeah, a very strong human being that Ferguson Jenkins is.
So as for his all-time ranks, he was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1991 at 75.4% on his third ballot. The fact that he went from permanently banned from baseball to Hall of Fame, I mean, how mad is Pete Rose right now?
Yeah, it's something.
Yeah, makes you think. 27th overall all-time in innings pitched, 15th in the live ball era, 29th in wins with 284, 23rd in games started, 21st in shutouts, 12th in the live ball era in that, and 12th all-time in strikeouts with 3,192. In the live ball era, he ranks 10th in career complete games, and he is also 24th in pitcher B WAR and 18th in pitcher F WAR. And he is the all-time Cubs leader in strikeouts, pitcher B WAR, and pitcher F WAR. He led the league in in walks per nine 5 times, and that is tied for 4th most all time among pitchers. He also led the league in K to walk ratio 5 times, which is 6th all time among pitchers. And he led the league in complete games 4 times, which is tied for 7th among all pitchers.
And now we get into what I like to call the fun stats. We go into StatHead, a subscription service. Shout out to Baseball Reference and StatHead. They got a subscription.
And while we're at it, shout out to Fangraphs too.
Always shout out to Fangraphs as well. But you play with some filters and you get some good results, making Fergie Jenkins look awesome as he is. He had 35. Fergie Jenkins had 35 games with a game score of at least 85, which is the 9th most such games by a single pitcher since they started recording game logs in 1904. Fergie Jenkins also had 90 games with 9+ innings, 6+ strikeouts, and 1 walk or less, which are the most such games in the live ball era. No one in the live ball era has had more of these games, 9+ innings, 6+ strikeouts, 1 walk or less. Fergie Jenkins was the master of, grinding out innings, getting strikeouts, and not walking anybody. And that stat definitely shows that. Fergie Jenkins also had 6 seasons with 280+ innings, 225+ strikeouts, and 85 walks or less. 6 seasons with those numbers. And those 6 seasons, that is the most such seasons all time, and no one else in the live ball era has had more than 3 such seasons. The next best guy has had half as many seasons with 280+ innings, 225+ strikeouts, and 85 walks or less. Also, Fergie Jenkins was the first person to retire with 3,000+ strikeouts and less than 1,000 walks. Pedro Martinez, Curt Schilling, and Greg Maddux have done it since then, and Justin Verlander, if he retired today, he would have 3,000 strikeouts and less than 1,000 walks. But it does show that Fergie Jenkins was very well ahead of his time, getting strikeouts, not walking anybody. He was the best at that of his time. And Fergie Jenkins is the only pitcher in baseball history with 4,000+ innings, 6.2+ strikeouts per 9, and 2 walks per 9 or less. Only pitcher in baseball history
That's right.
to do that in a career. And that leads into the legacy of Fergie Jenkins. Fergie Jenkins, he was a part of, he was a big part of the late 1960s/1970s game, that was dominated by the starting pitcher. I've said a bunch of these names. I mean, there's countless guys from this era that were starting pitchers who made it into the Hall of Fame. And a good example of that statistically is that 1967, 1968, and 1972 had the 3 lowest league average OPSs of the live ball era. And that was partially because of guys like Fergie Jenkins. And Fergie Jenkins is somewhat buried by those who pitched in the same era as him. And that leads into a good quote from Joe Posnanski's The Baseball 100. The Baseball 100 was an off-season thing that this guy Joe Posnanski wrote. I mean, I think he's a very well-esteemed baseball writer, and he basically counted down like the best 100 baseball players of all time. And this was his thing on Fergie Jenkins. Fergie Jenkins was, I believe, number 81 on that list. So here's a quote about Jenkins from this article. It said, quote, "He has largely been forgotten by baseball fans, and this is in great part because he was barely remembered in the first place. Jenkins came of age in baseball's golden age for starting pitchers. Because of this, he was more easily classified by what he did not do rather than what he did. Yes, he threw hard, but he was not Nolan Ryan. He was graceful on the mound, but he was not seen as the very picture of pitching beauty, like Tom Seaver or Jim Palmer. He did not throw Burt Blyleven's curveball, did not intimidate hitters with a death-defying slider like Bob Gibson or Steve Carlton, did not pitch in the World Series year after year after year like Catfish Hunter. In fact, his teams never won at all, which certainly didn't help his Q rating. Jenkins did not spit on the ball like Gaylord Perry, cut it like Don Sutton, flutter it like Phil Niekro. He did not gyrate on the mound like Louis Tiant or lift his leg high like Juan Marichal." And that's that again from the Baseball 100 by Joe Posnanski. I mean, it says it all. He wasn't recognized for anything very special, even though he was a special player. He just didn't get the attention. He never really got the attention he deserved, which is changing here on the show to be named later. Also, something with Fergie Jenkins, he was a man of his methods, and he did not change that throughout his career. This is another quote from the Baseball 100. It says, quote, "What Jenkins did was very simple. He threw the ball down and away. That was it. That was the whole thing. He pitched and lived with a singular focus that was in and of itself a superpower. If he struck out a hitter, his next pitch was down and away. Allowed a home run? Down and away. Men on base? Down and away. No hitter going? Down and away. He never wavered and never backed down and never saw anything but that one portion of the plate. Ferguson Jenkins hit more corners than sunlight." And here's another quote. It says, quote, "He wasn't out there to fool batters. He rarely threw a curveball. He never had a changeup. Once or twice a game, he might throw a fork ball, which was a bit slower than the rest." And a quote from Fergie Jenkins, the man himself, basically to close it out. Quote from Fergie Jenkins says, quote, "I tell youngsters to make the batter do half the work. Throw strikes. If the batter takes them, he'll strike out. If you don't throw strikes and give up a walk, you get angry with yourself. Your catcher is disappointed, your manager is mad, and the pitching coach is unhappy. In today's baseball, the guys by far don't throw enough strikes." So that was Fergie Jenkins. He was a strike thrower. He led the league in walks per 9 5 times. And he was a man of his methods. He never changed. And maybe that's why he wasn't looked at the same way as all the other pitchers of his era.
The most impressive thing to me about him is obviously you have these crazy walk numbers, but also he's combining the strikeout records or like the strikeout numbers too. He's striking out guys just as effectively as he is now walking guys. And with the thing that he's not walking people, you suspect that he's obviously pounding the zone. He's sort of pitching the contact in a way, and that wasn't even really true at all.
Yeah, it is weird because most guys who have the low walk rates, like that's why Corey Kluber is kind of was a crazy wonder, especially in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at I'm thinking of Zach Greinke. He doesn't get that many strikeouts, but he has a low walk rate.
Exactly.
Like Kyle Hendricks has a very
CC
low walk rate.
Sabathia.
Yeah, a lot of those guys, a lot of like two-seamers and cutters that get soft contact, but not guys that are necessarily striking a lot of guys
Fergie
out.
Jenkins is doing that and striking people out.
Yeah, literally retired as the first guy with 3,000 plus strikeouts and less than 1,000 walks.
That's right.
He needs to get recognized for that. He was ahead of his time, and no one really talks about it.
I completely agree with you on that. So
yeah, that is the end of our Fergie Jenkins part of the episode. We hope you enjoyed this forgotten man in baseball history.
Remember him.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of guys that definitely get their recognition.
This is my favorite type of players, like the low-key Hall of Famers. Like, obviously, you have your Ted Williams, your Willie Mays, your Albert Pujols guys that we've done on the show. This is my favorite right here is when we get to – it's like, when people watch our Ted Williams episode, it's you come into it knowing that he's great and you leave knowing that he's great. This episode, you can come knowing Fergie Jenkins is good. You leave knowing he's great.
Yeah, and he was kind of a revolutionary. And, we really hope you enjoyed this. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and you want to watch the videos with us, I know there wasn't a lot of videos today, but if you want to watch the videos with us, you'll definitely want to watch the videos with us for the second part of the episode with the 2008 Phillies. You can go to our YouTube channel, subscribe, STBNL with Chris Gianta and Daniel Curran.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to follow us on social media, follow me on Twitter at Chris_Gianta. Follow Daniel on Twitter at Daniel_Curran. And follow our Instagram at STBNL podcast. I think that thing can get pretty good throughout the season. I think we could have some good stuff on there.
Yes, definitely. And hey, season's gonna start. Probably, maybe, hopefully.
Yeah, we'll have some good graphics up there. Good videos.
Yes, we will.
So yeah, make sure to follow that. And we hope you enjoyed the Fergie Jenkins part of the episode. And we will see you on Friday when we are talking about the 2008 Phillies. See you on Friday.